Okay, hello everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Naili Farikhatul Maulida and you can call me Naili. So today we are going to discuss about the law of Medusa by Helene as the part of feminism. But before we talk about the law of Medusa, maybe you are wondering what is feminism? So, according to Lisa Day, feminism is an interdisciplinary approach to issues of equality and equity based on gender, gender expression, gender identity, sex, and sexuality as understood through social theories and political activism. Historically, feminism has evolved from the critical examination of inequality between the sexes to a more nuanced focus on the social and performative constructions of gender and sexuality. Next, we are going to talk about Helen Xicous. So, the Law of Medusa is written by Helen Xicous, but who is actually Helen Xicous? So, Helen Xicous is well known as an Algerian-born French novelist, short story writer, essayist, nonfiction writer, as a playwright and screenwriter. Besides that, she is also well known as French feminism, but she called French feminism not because she was born on France, but it is because she writes her literary works in France. Okay, so Helen was born on June 5, 1937, in Oran, Algeria, a Hebrew city full of neighborhoods of peoples of languages, as she writes in her autobiographical notes in word prints. Okay, so maybe you are wondering why made Helen write this essay. So, Helen once lived in an environment where male repressed women, particularly by the stereotypical behavior of men when they assume the princess of women. So in 1975, Helen Xicous wrote an essay called L'Ire de la Méduse in France, that later translated into English by Kay Cohen and Paula Cohen and known as the Law of Medusa. In this essay, Helen issues an ultimatum that women can either read and choose to stay trapped in their own bodies by a language that does not allow them to express themselves, or they can use the body as a way to communicate. But what does this ultimatum mean? We will discuss it in the next slide. So, in that time, literary works were dominated by men, while women were not allowed to write. Men often wrote about women without understanding what they genuinely felt or touched. But why this happened? Why women were not allowed to write? And here is the reason. Men's writing about women were influenced by the stereotypes where women are weak, passive, dangerous, and dark. In this environment, as I mentioned before, where Helen once lived, the males repressed women, particularly by the stereotypical behavior of men when they assume the presence of women. So, women did not have the opportunity to express themselves and share their thoughts. So, because of those reasons, Helen inspired women to be brave and start writing by sharing this essay. Helen wanted to fight for women's independence, for women's right from captivity and stereotypes that bound them. Helen argues that women must be able to express themselves in writing without being influenced by men's styles. Besides of that, there are another reason as the aim why Helen wrote the Law of Medusa. The first is to inspire women to write. As I said before, women couldn't express themselves because of the stereotypes about them. So Helen invited women to free themselves by writing about anything related to them that couldn't be defined by men. The second is to establish a new literary work. So women have their own style of language. The characteristic is that they tend to be poetic and describe their feelings. So women's characteristic of language is different from a male characteristic. So if they started to write something, they probably can establish a new genre of literary work. And the last but not least is to convince women to write. Actually, in that time, there were several female writers, but they used pseudonyms, so they didn't use their real names because they are prohibited to write. So with this essay, Helen convinced women, Helen encouraged them to write about themselves and use their own names. So I think enough for my presentation, and here are the references that I used in making this presentation. Okay, I think that's all for me. Thank you for listening. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and goodbye.